It's a 38-year-old motor, but it seems to be running okay. It's got a little bit of a leaky exhaust flange, but it started easy enough. I'm just warming it up so I can give it an oil change, get everything up to operating temperature. Now I've chosen to use a large, deep stainless steel pan because deep means that the wind that's howling through my property at the moment won't be blowing the trickle of oil everywhere. That's why I've got it on a block of wood, to get it closer so that it can't blow the oil everywhere. And the other reason is either a silver or a white container is so much better for analysing the oil. You've got to remember, this vehicle's only just become mine. I don't know what kind of service history it's had. I've already been through the axles and the gearbox and the transfer case and the overdrive and dropped the oil, checked it and put it back in. Somebody, I believe, has done all of the oils in the transmission, but the motor was untouched. So I'm just cleaning the sump plug here before I put it back in. And then I'll nip it up, refill it and check for leaks. Now this thing is an oil filter removing strap wrench, and to use it you lasso the oil filter and then pull the strap tight, like so, and that gives us a nice firm grip on the filter, and there we go, and it's coming undone. I'll spin the filter off, and instead of just pulling it out and dribbling oil everywhere, as soon as it comes free, I'm just going to turn it bum down so that the oil can drain out and I don't make a big mess everywhere. There we go. It can just sit there and drain for a while, and I'll go and have a cuppa. So when I got the new filter, the guy at the shop, who really knows the stuff, said, "I thought that thing had a Holden motor in it." I said, "Yeah, it has." And he says, "Well, this is a filter for a small block Chev." Oh, okay. Well, that's what it had on it, but that's good to know, because this filter is about 30% bigger than the filter that it should have. And to me, big is good. More surface area, more chance of picking up the crap that's floating around in the engine. So one of the first jobs to do when you fit a new filter is to put a wipe of fresh oil around the sealing ring, and that just helps you spin it on and get it up nice and tight with no leaks. Now these holes around the central hole, they have a rubber flap in behind them that stops backflow, which is a great thing because some oil pumps don't have a non-return valve in them, and if the vehicle's left for weeks and weeks and weeks, the oil filter can drain back into the block, which means when you start your engine, you'll start to get dry. You've got no oil pressure until the oil pressure comes up and it refills the filter. It's a bad design. So the oil filter people have made this little flap valve on the inside that pretty much just improves the chances of your engine surviving if it's doing lots of cold startups. So the filter gets spun on and then it gets tightened up 3/4 of a turn from where it first meets its mating surface. And what I'll do now is fill it up with the correct oil. Wait! That's not the correct oil, that's diesel oil! No, that's okay. You can put diesel oil in a petrol engine, but you can't put petrol oil in a diesel engine. Why do you put diesel engine in a petrol? Well, in older petrol engines, where you've got a bit of wear, the diesel oil is actually a little bit better quality than petrol oil, and it has lots of detergents added into it, which mean that it keeps everything clean. It holds the dirt in suspension and allows you to get it out during the next oil change. So there you have it, 3.8 litres of high quality diesel oil. What I do next is disconnect the coil so that the engine can't start, and I wind the engine over for a few turns until the oil pressure comes up, and that way I know that the filter's been filled, and that will make the oil level drop in the sump. So I check it again and do any topping up that's necessary. So what I'm going to do here is wind the engine over, .40 psi at idle. That's pretty good actually. Anything above 20 is passable. Okay, now seeing that the Landrover is new to me, I bought it on New Year's Eve. Well, it got delivered here on New Year's Eve from the South Island. I don't know anything about its history. I suspect that it's had something like 35-year service intervals. I opened the motor and found unbelievable crud, which indicates that it's been driving a lot at under normal running temperature. So I've put a engine flush through it, put the oil now through a filter, and I've got a very high powered neodymium magnet that I'm going to put in the container and pour the oil over the magnet. So everything that goes into this container will be going over this magnet. There's also a sieve in the bottom of this funnel, and that should get hold of any other particulates that get past the magnet. This is a great way of finding out exactly what I've bought. Is this motor going to need attention, or can I just run it as is? Now I've left this oil to settle for a while. So we're going to have a look at the last little bit and see what's stayed in here. We'll inspect the magnet, but I'll do the gold panning trick of just rotating this around and seeing what I've been left with. See if there's anything of any interest. Well, the first thing I see is lots of water. See all those droplets suspended in the oil? The water in the oil doesn't really concern me just yet. I don't think it's a blown head gasket. You've got to remember that I've been water blasting and wet sandblasting this thing for 2 weeks. This is a bit like reading tea leaves. What do I see? I see 35-year service intervals. And in here, I see tiny, tiny flakes of paint and the odd bit of unidentifiable stuff. The paint is primer and the blue that the block used to be painted in, which is slightly different to the blue that I painted. These flakes are very, very tiny. Now you'll see a droplet of water in the middle. This gauze is designed not to let water droplets through, but let petrol through. So it's a very fine gauze, and it's held back all of those little flakes of paint, tiny bits of grit that I mentioned earlier. Good to get those out of the engine. Ha! Flock you can't say that on YouTube. That door I painted before the weekend is still looking pretty in your face compared to the dull patina of the rest of it. Same with the bulkhead. Nice to see it covered up with a few things. Look, do you remember that huge spaghetti bowl of wiring that was sitting there when I started? That has all been dragged out and cleaned up. These were the inner guards. This is a pile of stuff that I've got left over. I decided not to work on the rusty electric fan or the inner guards and biffed them. The pile of wiring is some of the spaghetti that I had left over. There's the brake master cylinder, and this awful rusted monstrosity was the heater. There is no way that that's going back in. I may make a new box for it. I won't throw it away just yet, but as it sits like that, it's got no part in anything of mine. Now, I've left the inner guard and the bonnet off until the very last minute because it makes working on this thing so darned easy. All I've got to do tomorrow is bleed the clutch, bleed the brakes, and I can call this project finished. Well, I will put the guard back on and the bonnet and the grille, but at the moment I'm enjoying having access to everything. One last little titivation. This is the high-low boot, and I sprayed that with contact adhesive a few minutes ago, then walked away for a coffee, and I'm back, and I'm just going to centralise the two seams, front and rear, and then I'll cut the holes for the mounting bolts to go through, and that will be one last little feature that I can do to the inside. Down the track I will be doing things like reupholstering the seats and reupholstering the dash pad, but this refurb has just been a chance for me to go from one end of the thing to the other and check everything and give it a tidy up as I go, just so I know what I've got, rather than driving around in the thing until something breaks and then discovering all of its little secrets. at once. I'd rather get them out of the way now. It's been quite a push doing this refurb in 4 weeks, 28 days. I've had some nasty little scares when I've found things hard to get, or I've seen that the job is a little bit more in depth than I anticipated. But it's now the 23rd of January, and I've got 2 days left on my self-imposed 4-week, 28-day time frame. So I'm pretty pleased with myself. Next video, me driving the Landy. With no dust coming up through the floor.